A user on NeoGAF got curious and decided to compare Nintendo's Metacritic performance through the years, and they discovered that 2015 is actually Nintendo's lowest scoring year in a decade. Not exactly surprising, but it is kind of a reality check for anyone defending Nintendo's 2015 lineup, with Ultra Smash and Amiibo Festival and stuff, but obviously this data is based on aggregate scores, so it doesn't reflect how much any given person will enjoy Nintendo's offerings. You can totally still love Nintendo, and you should take that in stride, I think. But, as far as the landscape of gaming as a whole goes, Nintendo's 2015 is not pretty.
Yeah, and I think it's important to understand why that's the case. And it's not just because the quality of their games on average is bad, but even their heavy hitters this year are way subpar compared to their heavy hitters in previous years.
Oh, yeah.
I love Splatoon. Splatoon's one of my favorite games ever, not just on Wii U. But everyone knows the way it rolled out did not go over well with reviewers. Reviewers said it was light on content, and even though we knew a lot of the stuff that was coming eventually, that hasn't factored into review scores. And Splatoon really was the high point of the year.
Yeah, absolutely.
So
Xenoblade Chronicles X is getting really great reviews as well, but even that, as one of the Wii U's heaviest hitters this year, at least as far as review scores go, sales potential is a different story, but that's sitting at 84, and this data actually factored in Xenoblade Chronicles and Pokemon Super Mystery Dungeon. They crunched the numbers that the aggregates would be if both of those games got 100 Metacritic scores, and it still is not enough to change the fact that, Nintendo's 2015 is the worst, that they're behind every other year for Nintendo, that they're behind Microsoft and Sony for this year. And so
and it's interesting that you bring up that they're behind Microsoft and Sony, because one of the big things that they've been sort of touting is the fact that they have such high review scores. The Reggie and other executives have been saying, hey, it's quality over quantity. We don't have the big budgets, we're not pumping out games as fast as the competition, but all our games are getting 9s and 10s. Everyone loves our lineup, and we just want to make great fun games. And it's not that they're not making great fun games, but they're not winning in quantity, and now they're not winning in quality this year. And I will say the one way this could be redeeming for me is if they're putting very little resource into 2015 development because they're focusing on giving NX a strong launch.
I hope so.
If that's the case, then that'd be okay. I could live with that. But if they had a poor 3DS launch, and then they said, we learned from that, we've changed things, Wii U launch is going to be way different, and then it was worse.
Right.
So I really hope that they've actually learned this time, and that they're focusing a lot of effort on making sure that NX has great games in its first 6 months or so.
Yeah, and I'm going to assume that is the case, and I'm going to forgive them for 2015 because, if I'm assuming that the NX launch is going to be great in 2016, I can forgive that. But I will say, I do think there's reason to be optimistic that they have learned for real, because, or at least that if they think they've learned, that they won't be proven wrong again, like they were with Wii U, because the graduation from Wii U development to NX development, if NX is what we're sort of expecting it will be, which is essentially a Wii U type of hardware with a portable sort of form factor, then I think that developing games for NX will be significantly similar enough to Wii U development that they won't have those problems. Graduating from Wii and 3DS development to Wii U development was a huge thing that they didn't foresee. They should have foreseen it, but because it was, that jump from SD to 1080p HD, everything's got to be gorgeous. And now they're used to that for 3 or so years now.
I think for me, not having to split the audience between handheld and console will probably be the bigger thing.
Yeah, that's true too.
The most staggering thing about any Nintendo hardware launch is that, first of all, they cut off support for the previous hardware in about the year or two before they launch something new. And then even if they launch new hardware back-to-back, like with 3DS and Wii U, the 3DS basically goes quiet for a little bit while they do the Wii U launch.
Yeah.
And if NX really does share tools and assets to the extent that they've been saying, that sort of split effort won't need to happen with NX.
Yeah.
I'm a little less positive on, or at least I see a little less of a silver lining with 2015, how 2015 has gone, because even if they're gearing up for NX, it's still been a really big problem for them that they've been really bad at following up with the tail end of their hardware cycle. And I was hoping that they saw having that follow-up as important, given that they've said they were prioritizing making Wii U owners happy so that they have goodwill going into their next hardware launch. But I do see where you guys are coming from.
Yeah, I remember with Wii, the last 2 years, they didn't really have any big sellers. And, outside of Splatoon, it kind of looks like we're seeing the same thing with Wii U. So, like I said before, I hope it's because they're putting so much effort into NX, but I'm not quite as optimistic about it as Colin. I'm not making that assumption.
Sure.
Yeah, it's great actually that Wii U can't possibly be as bad as Wii, because a lot of people remember that Wii's 2011 was pretty bad. Like we just got the Kirby's Return to Dreamland and Skyward Sword, and those were really the only two major Nintendo games that entire year.
And Skyward Sword way undersold expectations too.
Yeah, Skyward Sword undersold expectations and underperformed critically, and so but people forget that 2012 was actually the last year, and we got basically zip unless you lived in America and you liked Xenoblade, and that was a late game.
Right.
We probably won't be like that. We still have some decent heavy hitters like Star Fox and Zelda coming in 2016. So assuming NX launches in 2016, we will have a better send off than we.
Hello everybody, thank you for listening to this Nintendo Week clip, NWC. If you like what you hear, please subscribe to us here on YouTube for more highlights and discussion videos from Nintendo Week podcast, or subscribe to us on iTunes for weekly breakdowns of all your Nintendo news, discussion segments on subjects, games, and more, and tons of other features. Thanks for listening, and we will see you tomorrow with another NWC.